Hey, what's up? So, look, very short intro, and then we're going to jump into this interview. I got to sit down with Chris from A Nerd's World. This guy is running a multi-million-dollar web design business in Toronto, operating at pretty much the highest level of what you can do with a web design business. So, got to ask him a bunch of questions yesterday. Really cool conversation. Hope you enjoy this. Any questions for myself or Chris, just post below. Also, check out the description of this video because Chris got to interview me for 30 minutes, and he posted that on his channel as well. So you can check out that as well if you want. That's enough of an intro. Let's jump straight into it. Really hope that you enjoy this. All right, I'll just jump right into it without too much of an intro, I guess. If you want to explain your background, how you got into web design, and your business has grown pretty big business. So if you want to explain that to this stage.
Yeah, sure. Roughly 20 years ago, I was running a corporate job. I was a district manager at Foot Locker. And I sort of got tired of the 9 to 5 hustle. I feel like almost since birth, I would call myself an entrepreneur. I've never wanted to be sort of guided or bossed around in any manner. So about 20 years ago, I learned this, the opportunity of e-commerce, something brand new to me, something I guess brand new to a lot of people. I was reading this magazine, entrepreneurship magazine, talking about a woman that made $1 million a year selling left-handed items online with this e-commerce website. And when I saw that first, I'm looking at that and saying, wow, what an opportunity. And if she could do it, then I can do it. And I was having a shitty day at work, and literally it happened so fast. I looked at sort of myself and said, I'm just looking for a reason to follow the footsteps of that successful woman. Like, I almost wanted to get fired immediately because I'm not a quitter. And I went back to work, and somebody sort of rubbed me bad, and literally I quit that day. So the same day I read that magazine, I quit my full-time job and decided I'm going to be an e-commerce entrepreneur. And I guess to shorten the story, after searching for probably 2 years unsuccessfully to find not a partner, but a developer that I can depend on, that would be as passionate as I am and maybe as crazy as I am. Back then, I was like a 20-year-old kid with no family, and my whole objective in life was to try to succeed in business. And I'd find a developer that would claim they know what they're doing. I would give them money, and then they would hide from me, or they would not answer my phone calls, or they would overpromise and underdeliver. About the third year of my e-commerce journey, I decided that, hey, I know it's not going to be quick, it's not going to be easy, but I need to learn web development myself, because no one's going to work as hard as I am for myself. So that's when I started reading books. I paid for other developers that I didn't know. I said, rather than me hiring you to build my website, let me hire you for a week, sit in my house, and teach me what you know about development. And I would do that with anybody and everybody. I was just basically trying to learn as much as I could. And so I became a developer. I was developing for myself. My business did very well, and that's when the sales started to increase, because I realized that the more often I update my site, the more sales I'm going to make, right? So now let's jump forward, I guess about 10 years after the fact. I decided to start a web development business because I know there are a lot of people out there looking for the service of development, but not finding someone that's passionate, knowledgeable, and I guess trustworthy with their project and with their money. Right? Being in this industry, we hear it so often, like, well, I've been screwed in the past, and that's why I'm reaching out to you, or I'm just haven't been happy in the past. So really and truly, that's why I started A Nerd's World. I'm like the non-developer. I haven't built a site in well over 10 years. I'm trying to take the angle of, let me be on the side of the client and be working my geniuses, because they're a lot better at development than I ever was, right? Let me work them and motivate them. And that's sort of how I built A Nerd's World. My wife and I built A Nerd's World.
Nice. So you just got into it. It's what I wanted to cover most.
Sure.
When I look at your content, I love your content. The big thing I notice is you think like a business owner first, and then the web design is downstream from that. While I feel a lot of other people, web designers, a mistake in the beginning is they're thinking just like, okay, the website, what's on the website. Can you talk a little bit more about, when you're selling, if you still actively sell these days? I believe you do.
Yeah, sure.
But,
sure.
You're thinking like a business owner, and then the website's for the business rather than the website first.
Right. I would consider myself an entrepreneur first and foremost, right? I've been in many businesses. I've owned a sneaker store before. After Foot Locker and e-commerce, I opened a sneaker store. I think business is business. I really do think business is business. And I think like my angle to this whole thing and selling is being like on a common playing field, right? Because remember, I was in the position of looking for developers in the past, and they would use words that I didn't understand what they were trying to say. So, I mean, my sales pitch is coming in as a business owner trying to sell other business owners something, which is a website most of the time, that's going to get them a return on investment. And by simply me explaining to the fact that I understand your investment, you know, you need to make sales, or you need to promote a product, or whatever the case is, whatever your call to action is. As a business owner, I think I can understand that better than if I'm coming in as a developer. Now, that's not to say a developer can't learn how to communicate in that fashion, by no means. But my sort of, I keep saying angle. Angle's a bad word. Angle sounds like I'm trying to sell somebody. The better way for me to put it is this. As a human being, when I sit down with another human being, I need to understand what their issues are, or what room for improvement I can bring to their project in order to increase sales, or whatever that thing is that they need to do. I think it's too early in the morning. It's not coming out as proper as that.
No, dude, it's great. I feel the opposite here, where it's like too late in the afternoon. So yeah, like that's exactly how I see it as well. What I want to, I guess, get into on top of that is, when you look at new web designers, what skills do you think they should be focusing on top of just like they can code, they can develop?
It's tough because everyone has their own goal in this industry, right? I know a lot of developers that love development, so like they're so passionate about it that profit is like on the bottom of their list. They'd much rather be working on a project that they're happy with. They'd much rather be working on a project once a month or once every 3 months and just survive financially, right? So for those people, they're going to have a completely different mindset as to what traits are most important, right? But I mean, like from my perspective of building a team, from me alone to adding my wife to opening retail stores to building a bigger team, I think the number one thing is really communication. And communication does not solely mean sales, because communication to me is like talking to a client and really setting like processes and under like a true understanding of what the client's responsible for and what you're responsible for the amount of money that you've both agreed upon. Because communication is everything from reaching out to a client and saying, can you please provide your second round of revisions, to communication could also be before commencing a new relationship and signing a contract, clearly outlining what your responsibility is versus what their responsibility is. Because I think that is so important. If you're not good at communicating, or you're hesitant in explaining responsibilities, I find that a lot of developers sort of drive themselves to the ground too early, because, you know, after month 1 or year 2, you're like, what the hell am I doing in this industry? You know, clients want too much. They don't want to pay enough. I'm doing endless revisions. And that's the type of thing I think the developer has to look at themselves in the mirror and say, maybe I did not outline the sort of boundaries of this relationship clearly enough to my client because of my lack of communication.
100% agree. Yeah. The next thing I wanted to get into. So when I was going back, I mean, I watched your content already. I was going back to your content, and I think you have those skills that if you went into any niche or industry, you're going to succeed. Like just looking at how you do things, how you scale your communication, the team that you can build. So with web design, what was it about web design that kind of kept you there? I'm sure you feel the same way, that if you tomorrow just started some other completely random business, you have those skills from thinking about it in that way to, you know, more than likely do very well in that other niche. So is there something about web design that kept you in there for that amount of time?
A couple things, right? Like I became a millionaire with my own e-commerce website myself. So I feel like it was some knowledge that I had that I can actually share with other people. Step number 1 is something I was passionate about, I had experience on. Let's say number 2 is I saw that there's profits there. Not just current profits, but I mean long-term profits. I'm 41 years old now. When I started this business in 2006, my plan was to be a developer for the rest of my life and possibly sell the company 30 years from now for $100 million. But I mean, I was looking for a career opposed to a job. And I saw profits available immediately and once again, for the future. And number three is I just saw that there's a big hole in the industry that I felt like I could sort of fit, like a real person that since day one, I've never sold a website and felt uncomfortable about the sale. I'm not going to sell you something you don't need or you can't afford. That's not my sales pitch. I'd much rather leave and say, no, I'm not the right fit for you, or no, you don't need this, than simply make a profit. So I've always put like the client over profit, and those three things together, and still having the passion and like having this YouTube channel and allowing myself to sort of explain the ups and downs of development, man, it keeps that fire just burning. Even that simple DM that I get at 5 a.m. from Africa and said, like a 1-sentence DM saying like, you've helped me a lot with my business, right? That type of stuff, and the fire just keeps burning. And sort of that's why I've been in the industry and started this business and continue to do it.
Yeah, I love it, man. And you're one of the only web designers, not that there's anything wrong with this. I mean, I do it myself. Like a lot of people have coaching or some sort of product or something. It takes a lot of work to put that content up there, but you've put up, I think, over 200 videos. So
yeah, crazy. And then I've deleted a lot of the embarrassing ones.
I've done that as well. Cool. So do you want to talk more about like that gap that you see? So let's say you're a new web designer coming in, you're considering jumping into this. Like, where is the gap there? Because I think that is where it is. Like people who can just communicate, normally build good relationships. They see what, the business owner wants, not what they want as a web designer.
Yeah. I don't think there's a fast forward to this. I think you really need to start the business and you need to learn along the way. I think each person or business that you start is going to have its own gap based on who your direct competitors are within your area, right? So like when I started this business, I'd say for the first 4 or 5 years, we didn't take it seriously because I had a lot of money in the bank from my prior businesses. So it was more like a pastime. It was literally like no hustle. If somebody contacted us, we might take on a project. This was from my bedroom apartment. There was literally no hustle. But the first step forward that we took in starting a retail store, in order to decide what those gaps were, like what those actual gaps were, instead of just guessing, it's literally we were picking up the phone. Myself, my wife, and my friend, it was like we would sit around the house and pick up the phone and start Googling our competitors and calling them on the spot. And we'd have a little checklist of like, what did we like about the call? What didn't we like? We would even time it like, okay, we've sent an email, stopwatch, let's see how long it takes for them to reply. So we put this whole database together that's not like a business plan, but yet it opened our eyes to like, what is the average consumer going through, or prospect or client, when looking to hire a developer? And that's sort of how we put together where the gap was in our industry. Because I mean, like, I think it goes city to city. I knew when we started, the majority of our clients are going to be within Toronto. Toronto's a big city. They have more than enough clients, and we have more than enough competitors, right? So that's how I sort of found out what my gap was. And I think each person, in order like to bring your business to the next level, if you're a freelancer working alone, I don't think you have to overly be concerned with gaps in other businesses that are bigger than yours, because they're not really, it's not really competition. But I would just say, look at your competitors, whether you're calling them or emailing them, or you're just physically, you're going through their page and saying, what are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Pulling some stats on their business. And I think through that, you can find out what gaps are available for you to sort of, not good terming, but exploit, like to do better than. And that's like the true story as to how we started really, really getting in there and finding business.
For sure. I've heard you mention it twice already. So your page, which looks really good, the nerdsworldpage.com, is that a big part of how you, because I'm guessing it's probably even more so just the relationships that you built, but your page looks like a really solid website for generating leads.
Yeah, well, SEO is like bar none the number one way we're generating leads in 2020 for sure. So we're getting a lot of traffic to our website.
Nice. Let's say just for a smaller freelancer who is looking for, I don't want to say the minimum amount of work, but like the nice cushy setup as freelancing as best you can do. Like, do you recommend them to go that same approach with SEO, or just build a good relationships, or go networking route?
I think a little of both, to be honest with you. It depends on the type of person you are, because you could be a comfortable freelancer today depending on your age, right? And still think that maybe in 5 years from now, I want to grow a team, right? So if you decide that maybe in 5 years you want to grow the team, then I would recommend putting time and effort into SEO. Now, you don't have to go all in. You don't need to spend hundreds of hours per week. But I mean, if you scheduled an hour a week or 2 hours a week in creating content that you're happy with, that's something you're passionate about, that's all you really need to know about SEO. If you feel like you're going to be content being a freelancer now and for the next 5 years, then no, go out and find those kind of jobs that you want, assuming that your portfolio dictates that you're knowledgeable enough in order to create those type of websites. Because I think that's the hard truth that a lot of people have difficulty with. Somebody will reach out to me and say, wow, Chris, you're building the Toyota website. That's incredible. I want a Toyota website. And I'll look at their portfolio and they're nowhere near the level of Toyota, and you're never going to get that job. So it's about being honest with yourself, and that presuming that you have the experience and the ability to do so. Reach out to those type of projects. Hey, if you want to deal with the media, reach out to media companies if that's what excites you. If you want to deal with athletes, start sending DMs to all the athletes. They're not going to find you. You have to find them. There has to be some hustle involved.
Yeah, I like that about your business. You've, future-proofed it in several ways. So I guess you have foot traffic, you have strong personal branding, which is really on point. You got the SEO. I'm sure you've got really good relationships. Do you do a lot of referrals as well, or any sort of?
In comparison, no. But I mean, to the average person, yes, for sure. This morning, right before this call, I looked and found 3 emails like, hey, you worked on my brother's website. He was a roofer. Now I'm starting a roofing company. Can you give me a price quote? But I mean, if you looked at that as an actual number in comparison with SEO leads, it's not even a close race, right?
So SEO is just way out in front for you.
Way out, but it wasn't always that way, because we know SEO takes time and building authority takes time, right? So when I started, it was all reaching out. It was cold calls, cold emails, knocking on doors. Like, there was times in my life when we started this business, I would cry to myself because I would be like, there's no way I ever thought that this business would be so difficult. Like, literally, I'd call my wife. It'd be like 3 a.m. I'd be like, love, I'm not coming home for 3 days because I got to sleep at the office and I got to conjure up some sales. And it was a nightmare. But even in those times, I was still dedicating time to SEO, knowing that in the future, SEO is going to be a very important part of my business. And now it's sort of been full circle. We haven't done a cold email in at least 5 years. I take every opportunity to sort of promote my service and business. If I'm in a restaurant and I'm talking to a manager, I'm definitely dropping a card and saying, if you need help. So that hustle's still there. But I mean, SEO is at least 90 to 95% of our leads. And our leads are probably about 30 to 35 good quality leads per day, 7 days a week. So that's where the traffic is coming from.
Nice. So when someone reaches out, do you mind going over like your general sales process there, like how it runs through your team, and if it touches you at any point, or if you're just kind of watching things from?
No, for sure. Like sales, it depends on what it is. Today, really, it's my wife and I, and even at the size of our business, we're the only 2 people doing sales. Period. We run like a family-run business. We've tried other things where we bring other team members in. It's never worked up to our expectations. Therefore, we're greedy and we do it all ourselves. If somebody reaches out today with an email, no matter how simple the email is, hey, want a website, how much? Or if it's very detailed and says, here's our full outline of what we're looking for, the first goal is always to get the person on the phone or in person. Most of the time, the far majority of the time, it's over the phone, because we want to sort of figure out, is this the type of project we want to take on or we're capable of taking on? Do they have the budget required to hire us? So I feel like a verbal introduction is sort of necessary. And it also sort of eliminates the people that are just fishing and looking for prices, which, since I have a YouTube channel, it's become a lot. It's funny because my wife will come and say, I'm sure that's a YouTube watcher just sending questions to sort of see where my hole is in the industry. So first goal is always communication. If the call goes well or it doesn't, we still follow up with an email, sort of touching upon everything that we talked about and what our recommendation is. And we always request a follow-up. So it's not just like a blank follow-up. We always request, is it possible that I follow up with you next Wednesday at 4 p.m. for a secondary call? And in between those times, I want to go to their website without insulting them. I want to look and talk about and figure out how can I bring something to the table maybe that they haven't quite thought about. And that could be from a business side, or it could be because certain elements of their website are not working. You need to click 7 buttons in order to purchase something when it should be two buttons. But I want to make sure they know that I'm knowledgeable and that I can actually outline things that I can do to improve their business. And that's normally how it works. There are some clients that, you need to do big boardroom type meetings, presentations. I've never done something that, like, I've never in my life done a PowerPoint presentation ever. Without being hired for something, to be honest with you, it's more like point form notes on ways that we see that we can improve the business, just so that they know something their business. And really and truly, that's it. Without sounding like cocky and arrogant, as a business in Toronto, because we rank so high and we've dealt with so many, like our web design portfolio could easily be 1,000, 2,000 good quality pieces. When people reach out to us now, it's like they already know something about us even without asking. So the sales pitch right now is a lot shorter. And most of the time people will email us and just say, hey, you're number one. I want to work with you. Let's get started today. It's become a lot easier to close deals today than it was 5-10 years ago, for sure.
Nice. So you keep it pretty human, normal communication?
All the time. But once again, voice. And I'm a strong believer in selling. You cannot be too monotone. Like, people like hearing excitement in your voice, whether that be authentic or it's not. Like, if a dog food company comes in, I'm not excited about dog food, but I'm excited about business, right? So I can tell them that I'm excited and like, hey, have you thought about this? Or have you thought about a monthly subscription for your website? Like, just bring something new to the table that they might not have thought about. I think it's hugely important, because they're like, wow, this guy's on the ball. He knows what he's talking about. And I'm interested in starting a relationship with somebody that's not only going to do the things I'm asking for, but also going to implement ideas and share ideas that might bring my business to the next level.
So with the idea, like, you're going beyond the website there, where you're looking at their whole business, how do I improve?
Yeah. And all that information's free, right? We're never selling a consulting fee. Like, hey, I got 3 ideas, but now I want 5% of your sales. Or if you want my ideas that I have, you have to pay me a fee. So, I mean, part of my sales pitch is that you're hiring a design agency, but I'm also going to implement, well, I'm not going to implement, but I'm going to share with you my ideas.
Nice. This is, I guess, hopefully not too personal or anything, but
yeah.
So, I did pretty well in web design, but I found it hard to go past a certain point where I was making good money. I didn't want to grow the team because I just didn't want to manage a lot of people, and I would just enjoy the money and then, get down to a lower amount and get back to selling again and kind of repeat that. Where did you find that motivation to go further with, okay, we're going to grow a team, we're going to have multiple, locations, we're going to really take this?
I think it's in me. Like, literally, it's always been in me. I've been hungry. I think, like, I was born with I was like middle class, and I never liked it, to be honest with you. I always looked up to those richer people. And I mean, I never read books, like, ever in my life. But if I name 5 books that I've read in my life, they were always like entrepreneur type books. And I always aspired for not just of like a financial greatness, but like you said, you like to travel, right? I've always aspired to travel. I've always aspired to have nice things. And then when I got married, I guess about 14 years ago, I should know that number. And now I have a wife, and now we have a newborn child at the time. That was my motivation. And then we had our second child, and our second child, Avery, was diagnosed with autism. So my wife and I talked about it. In the beginning of his life, we put him in what they call a regular school, because private schools were just so expensive for him. And in Canada, they weren't willing to assist financially. And I remember he came home one day crying, saying, and he must have been like 5 years old or 6 years old, like, they're making fun of me, school, they're making fun of me. He was not very verbal. And my wife and I sat at the table and said, we can't have this by any means necessary. We got to get him the best school. We're not going to, as a father, hearing that about your son. And now he's fine. He's verbal. He's still in a private school. We decided to put our youngest daughter in private school. They get better education and they get more hands-on approach with school. So, I mean, those are a few of the burning things inside of me that, pushes me to want to build a successful business and profit. A lot of people are not honest with themselves because profit for a lot of people is like a scary word. Wow, you're only doing this for profit. Hey, I started a business to make a profit, right? I'm doing a legitimate business. I'm not conning people out of their money. But yeah, I'm motivated by money for sure. And it's always been in me.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, man. And I mean, that's the same way I am. But
going back to your actual, what you've stated, is there ups and downs? Yeah, for sure. Like this COVID, sales have dropped dramatically. Our expenses remain the same, which is hard for people to hear. Like we pay $150,000 a month, whether we're open or closed, right? So like my motivation, the fire is burning deep right now. Like I'm not sleeping right now. Whereas before COVID, I was traveling the world. I was doing my thing. I was having fun. But now the burning sensation of getting out there and hustling, man, it's back and I'm ready. So now is the point where we are trying to make sales and we are doing things that we normally would not do. We're not going to sit back and wait for SEO just to happen on its own. Definitely the plan is like phone calls all day, reaching out to old customers, whatever it takes to survive.
So with that in mind, the Corona period, and this will be my last question because we're pretty much on the half hour here. Like, I'm sure you had a lot of time to reflect there. Is there anything that you're going to switch up in the future or kind of head in a slightly different direction or structure it differently?
Yes and no. I think it's a temporary switch, but I mean, SEO was, I don't want to sound like it was easy money because a lot of work was put into it, but SEO is the only service that we provide that's a recurring, every month on a certain day, we get a lump sum of money, cash flow, very important for a business. You need to know that you have money coming in. Hugely important. Our numbers, our cash flow numbers from SEO dropped dramatically. Like I would say that we've dropped at least 90% in the last 4 months with our SEO, where that was sort of our cushion, knowing that we always had cash flow. The bills would always be paid. Now with that dropping, now we got to look at other opportunities. A lot of businesses do not want to be putting money into SEO right now because they're not getting a fast return on investment. And to tell a business now that might go bankrupt that you have to wait 3 to 6 months to see any results and you have to invest so much money per month. So, I mean, my strategy right now is to go back to just survival mode. Like I've spent the last week updating our logo design page. Logos, we sell, let's say on average, I don't know, a logo every 3 days. It's not big money. It's fun to do. It's exciting to see your logo on someone's storefront, but there's never been a push for logo design. But now because my SEO is dropping so dramatically, like the sales of SEO, I'm definitely putting more time into our logo design and just, once again, survival. So, I mean, if it means that we've got to start promoting more photography or videography, like smaller paying clients, then we have to do that. But what has COVID taught me? It's taught me that it's difficult to run a business. And there are certain things that you can never, ever plan. No one can. But it's also taught me that you can learn and you can utilize this time to sort of regain that burning fire within you, because a lot of people have quit. A lot of people have said, I'm done with this. I'm not going to run a business. I need a 9 to 5 because I'm guaranteed money. And I like that because that gives people like myself the opportunity to say, I'm going to work harder than everyone else, because I'd never want to go back to that route. So I've used this COVID as, once again, just as a motivation to move forward and continue on. People will come and go. That's life. As long as I maintain my business and just keep shooting for the stars, that's the game plan.
All right, so that's it for the interview. Check out the other half of the interview on Chris's channel. Again, the link's in the description. Really hope you got a ton of value for this. For me, it was probably one of the best conversations I've had about web design, I would say, ever. It's pretty cool to see someone operating on that level, just doing so well with a web design business, seeing how they think, seeing how they got to that place, how they operate their business, all those different things. Also, if you have any suggestions for anyone else that you'd like for me to interview or to talk to on this channel, let me know in the comments below, or hit up that person, let them know, hey, you should do, you know, an interview or something with Fox Web School, and have them reach out to me. So whichever way you want to do it, let me know below, or suggest for people to reach out to me, and we'll try and make it happen. So really hope that you enjoyed this video. Catch you in the next video.